opening words of the preamble of the United States Constitution. They signify that the power of the United States government rests with us, with we, the people, not the government. Hi there. I'm Dr. Gloria Frederick, your host for Voices of We the People. Thank you for joining us. The podcast is all about how we take action to address the challenges to our well being in Washington, D.C., in our communities, and within the state of North Carolina, particularly in Eastern North Carolina. I am constantly fascinated and encouraged by the talent and deep thinking of some of our North Carolina residents, and I want to present their thinking to the residents of Eastern North Carolina. Our guest today is one of those deep and creative people. I am very pleased to present Dr. Hasan Crockett. Dr. Crockett has developed some powerful tools to help us think about our vote, our community, and the help that we need to engage after our vote in November. Dr. Crockett is Dean of the Division of Liberal Arts and Humanities, the Chair of the History and Political Science Department, and an Associate Professor of Political Science at Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina. He has a long and storied history working in community development and has contributed to an education and to community development in many ways. He is an accomplished researcher and author who has published numerous articles and papers on political science, social justice, and educational strategies. In brief, Dr. Crockett's career reflects a deep commitment to education, to social justice, and community engagement. What is exciting for us today is that our conversation today combines many of these areas of expertise and commitment. Welcome, Dr. Crockett.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gloria. We are so excited to be here, to be with the voices, we the people. And I think it is so critical what the work that you're doing is so important to us in North Carolina and actually throughout the nation.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We have a lot to cover, but I just want to say right out front that we had a very interesting conversation early on about what we would talk about in this podcast because I am very cognizant of the fact that I talk to people and they're not aware that politics and political activity is everywhere. And they will often say, I don't want to be involved in politics. I don't care what politicians are doing. And yet, that very idea, that very thought is something that amazes me because I understand politics is everywhere all that we do. And so that's one of the reasons that we had our conversation. And so I'm asking you the very same question that I asked earlier. Can you talk about how politics affects our lives every day?
Excellent, excellent. It does affect our lives. For example, the streets that we live on. When we go to the restaurant, it was inspected by a agency. When we get a house bill, it has to be inspected. The policies that affect education, the schools, the way that the grades are designed, how much you need to have to graduate from college, how much the credits you need to have to graduate from high school. All political decisions. One of the political scientists says, Harold Lasber said, politics is who gets what, when, and how. So when we look at who receives the benefits or the advantages, when you look at what resources and policies are distributed to people in this country, and when our decisions made and how are they made? Who makes the decisions? And when we look at politics and through that lens, we can see how critical it is to our lives every day. I always tease my students as to when you go into a restaurant and they by law must put their inspection up where you can see it. And so the inspection number goes up to 100. And I say, well, what is the number that you would be comfortable with at a restaurant? And some say 80. I say, well, you're going to die. Some say 90. It has to be 95 or above. But again, that's the fact that politics is all around us all the time. And we have to recognize it and realize how critical it is to our daily lives.
We absolutely do. You know, it might be helpful to emphasize that voting is our way of saying what's important to us. That's just what you were talking about. Um, Creating paths, in a sense, to understand what just happened to us and why it's happening. We need to understand community power dynamics and those factors that influence community power. Can you explore the concepts of power for our listeners?
Yes, power has a lot of tentacles to it. We have power in political power, community power, religious power. We have power with gender, power with various groups and organizations. They talk about pluralism as power, elite power. So we realize power in a variety of ways in our communities. One of the ways you talked about power is with voting. We vote in order to establish the how are resources distributed. And so we have institutions, and these institutions are responsible for the how, city councils, the county commissioners, the state. So they decide how the resources are distributed and to whom the resources are distributed. So power has to do with who holds the reins of the who, the why, and the how. So when we go to the polls, we're voting for a political party that's going to assume the running of the government, and they will distribute the resources of the government. And remember, the government is ran by our tax dollars. Okay, the government is what everything that they do is the result of our tax dollars, and it's billions of dollars every year. So we have to realize the kind of powers that we hold as far as the everyday citizen and how we relinquish and give a representative system of government, give that power over to our representatives.
One of the interesting things that's happening right now as we talk about power, as we talk about our vote and what we think we voted for, is there are lots of people who are saying we didn't vote for the war, but if we didn't vote, then we probably did vote for the war because we didn't vote. And that
Exactly.
and that's one of the issues about community power, and it's one of the issues about how our vote leads us to um, strike out with community power and what it means in our separate communities. You know, one of the other things is economic power that we didn't talk about yet, but that's an important issue as well because some of us think just because we have a business, that's all we need. But uh, that's only part of what we need and struggle with as we are talking about community power. You've developed some fascinating tools that we'll talk about in a minute. But could you talk some more about the whole business of how a community can exercise its power? Because you've developed some amazing tools that give our community uh, inroads into understanding one, what their vote produced, and two, how the vote can be used to hold our elected officials accountable. So, can you talk about those things, if you would?
Yep. Yes. A couple of things. One, we have developed a community elected official report card. And this report card is a just like a report card that we have in our education system. This report card is how the community looks at the representatives that they put into power and grades them. What is their performance? Are they transparent? Are they making policies that help the community? Do they have regular meetings that we can access the community, the representative in their particular positions? Do they have a transparency when it comes to their finances? Can we see who is donating to these to our representatives? So we have a check off list. They get an A, they get a B, they get a C, and they get an F if they are not representing the community, if they're not transparent, if they are not holding regular meetings with the community, if their policies don't positively affect the community. So we have what we call a community report card, and we monitor them on an ongoing basis. We make sure that we look at what they've done this every 3 or 4 months. Community comes together with the representatives and say, this is your grade. And these are the things that we think you are either doing well or you're not doing well. So we have what we call a community report card. There's some other, we're going to get into some more things, but and then we also have, and I think this is something that you have done, Dr. Frederick, is the community mapping. Uh, we have our communities have assets that we do not recognize the value and the power, the economic power of those assets, the cultural power of those assets. So we do a community mapping. We go through our community, we take our young people and we say, go through the community, look at the assets in the community. Low income communities, I don't know any that don't have a school and have multiple schools. That's a multi-million dollar edifice a school is and all of the resources that a school has. They have gymnasiums, they have sports facilities, they're empty most of the time during the evening so that they can be used for other activities for the community. You have the clinics in the communities. You have businesses. You were just talking about businesses. You have nonprofits in your community. You have cultural values. You have, for example, our senior citizens. And the knowledge that they have is very important to the community. And all of these assets can be used as leverages for the community to get grants, to get better policies, and et cetera. So, community mapping is one of the tools that I think is really important for a community to develop itself. We have deficits, but we also have assets. And we often look at only the deficits and say how bad the community is, and we don't have this, we don't have that, but we need to have a more holistic approach to what our community holds for us. And I think our community will be much more successful in accessing the various grants and various policies that can help our community develop and grow. So I think that's another tool is our community assets. We call it mapping. It's another tool.
You know, one of the other interesting things about community mapping is residents, particularly in low income communities, um, think they have no power because they don't see economic means in their communities. But putting all of this together does give them power, does help them to
that
understand that they are not powerless. And so I am very, very pleased that you are involved in community mapping because it helps our communities understand that they have power and responsibilities and they need to use both. Is there a way that you can give an example of how the community mapping has made a difference in the community?
yes, when we were working in Atlanta, we did community mapping in what was that time called People's Town. And we had the process is just as important as the outcomes. We had intergenerational activities. We had the youth go out and walk the streets and look at the various community assets. We had them go and interview the seniors. We had the churches involved. They make sure because we have so many churches in our communities. And so
Mhm.
what happened was we took all of that information and we went to the I'm trying to think of the grantor in Georgia. He'll come to me. Because Z. Smith Reynolds is coming to my mind. That's North Carolina. We're trying to, but
It's one of the community
we
foundations.
went to a community foundation
Yeah.
and we showed them these are the assets that we have in this particular community. We can leverage this for a grant. And what in one of the communities, what they wanted was a place for the youth to have some recreation. They wanted to have tutoring, and they had a building that was available going back to it was right next to a school. And so they showed how valuable this facility was. They took the facility and used it as part of and leveraged it as part of the grant that was necessary in order to get the necessary materials for the building. So it can be done. That was one way. That was in Peoplestown in Georgia. But there's a lot of ways that you can use your assets in your community in order to make sure that it gets the value, it gets the means that is necessary for you to grow and develop. Another way we
Mhm.
use in the area was we put together a community mapping for a community garden, and we went to the extension, Georgia Extension, and they said, well, this is a good place to do gardening. We mapped it so that we would have people who were agreeing to give us tools. The tools came from one of the businesses in the community. We had the youth come out and help do the garden. And so we allowed for the community to get involved, for to have community, and then some of the produce was used in order to go, it went to the local stores in the community. And so we had the produce going to the stores, we had the businesses giving tools and et cetera, hardware store, that type of thing. So assets were there, and it's just a matter, and they're there in every community. In every community that I know very few communities that do not have a sizable amount of assets.
One of the things that impressed me about what you just talking about with the community garden is um, in many of our communities, we have food deserts. And so the community gardens serve the purpose of creating nutritious uh, greens and other kinds of vegetables for the community. And that's really important right now when so many of us are suffering because of food insecurity. And I think that what the community mapping does is give the community some strength about what it needs to
Okay.
do, and to
Mhm.
and to and to be very very clear that we know what we're doing because we got the data. Um,
Yes.
and, and sometimes we don't always say to people we have the data because with grantors, for example, they look for the data. They look for that.
Yes. Yes. Well, you know what? And just to transition to the power that we have in the community and the power of the individual. One of the things that we have to look at is in North Carolina, for example, we have approximately 7,000 elected officials. That is, we have city council, local city council, mayors, commissioners on the county level elected. And on the state level, we have, of course, the governor, legislature. Here we got the various bodies that are elected in North Carolina. And we add them together, we have about 7,000, give or take, from our research. What we also must realize that we have boards and commissions, okay? And boards and commissions in North Carolina, and this is straight across the nation, but let's just use North Carolina because this is where we are. We have tens of thousands of members on the boards and commissions in North Carolina. 80,000, 90,000 members on the boards and commissions of North Carolina compared to the 7,000 elected officials total. For example, you live in Clinton, right? You live in Clinton, North Carolina. Is that right, Dr.
Um,
Frederick?
our manager lives in Clinton.
Okay, so the manager lives in Clinton. In Clinton, North Carolina, we have six elected officials, city council and the mayor, total six. However, in Clinton, North Carolina, we have 10 boards and commissions, and each of those boards and commissions have about 10 representatives on there, 10 non-elected officials, which means we have, compared to the six elected officials, we have about 60 non-elected officials. These are appointed officials. And these officials, these boards and commissions, for example, they have what is called quasi judicial power and quasi legislative power. So, what are we talking about with quasi judicial power? They have power to have a hearing. Say, for instance, you want to rezone and put in a um, a healthcare center or put in a child care center, but you have to go to the commission. And the zoning commission, you have to have, say they want to have evidence that this particular center that you want to put in is beneficial to the community. You're not going to the elected officials. You're going to the appointed officials. Okay?
That's right.
They have hearings for your licensing, for a beautician, a barber. They can assign fees. They can take they can take your license, and these again are appointed officials, not your six elected officials. Now, the six elected officials appoint the boards and commissions. So that's where, getting back to our vote, that's where our vote counts because we put in the elected officials and they appoint the appointed officials. So governance is not only the power, it doesn't just rest in the elected officials, it also rests in the appointed officials. And there's tens of thousands of appointed officials. And talking about the community, the the applications for these members are online. They are available. And the community members need to understand that many of them are eligible to be members on the various boards and commissions. In fact, we're going to run some workshops around the state, starting here in the Triad. And we will come over to your part of the state. We're getting elected officials, we're getting board officials, we're getting magistrates, because the magistrates are appointed too. The magistrates aren't elected. And look how much power magistrates have. You want to get warrants, you go to the magistrate.
Mhm.
They preside over civil cases and et cetera. All of them are appointed. 600 something of them are appointed in the state. So the governing power that the boards and commissions have is very much hidden. It's not transparent. We don't know. The article that I have is called Behind the Curtain, and it's hidden, and we don't know who they are. One, do they represent the community? In Clinton, you got 10 boards and commissions. What are the demographics of those boards and commissions? How many women? How many people of color? Was their income? Was all these kinds of, they are making decisions that impact us, but are they representative of the community where they reside? And so, how do we, one, educate the community about the boards and commissions, tens of thousands of people on them. Two, how they can be involved, how they can be involved on the boards and commissions. Three, how we impact the elected officials who appoint the boards and commissions, make sure that they are looking at their communities and appointing people who are not special interests. A health commission. The health commission may have the overloaded, maybe have five people from who own the hospitals and et cetera. They're the ones who are on the health commission as opposed to people who use the services. So very important that we look at this. And I say we're starting our pilot program right now, starting here in the triad, and we'll be coming to the eastern part of the state and dealing with the boards and commissions.
You're listening to the voices of We the People. Our guest today is Dr. Hasan Crockett. He is Dean of the Division of Liberal Arts and Humanities, the Chair of the History and Political Science Department, and an Associate Professor of Political Science at Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina. What you might ask is next for the Voices of We the People podcast. Beginning March 24th, Voices of We the People will take a break. We'll explore other countries and report back. When we get back, we'll focus on affordability. What do we mean and what is included in the way that we think about affordability? Our guests will be Gen Zers, that is, those people who are between the ages of 14 and 29. What do they think about affordability? What shapes their ideas about the term? And maybe they have a different way of thinking about this whole term and idea and concept of affordability. If you know someone who might be interested, email us from our website or call 908-500-8065. And don't miss that broadcast starting on April 27th. He was talking about the boards and commissions, and I mentioned that based on his our discussion, I live in Onslow County, so I went back to look at how many boards and commissions there are in Onslow County. I didn't go beyond that, so I can't tell you how many people are on each board or commission, but there are 13 in Onslow County. So we will follow up just with Onslow County to let you know what we're seeing. But what I'd like to know from Dr. Crockett is you're saying that you're going to have training around the state. Have you scheduled anything yet? Is there any way that we can follow what you're doing and ask questions and maybe ask you to come to our community?
Ye- Yes, there is. In fact, we have the website and we'll put that information. And we just sent out our latest newsletter, Sojourn Project 2, and it has the tentative dates for in the newsletter, and it talks about dates for all the way up through, I think it's August or September, maybe even
Mhm.
October. So we'll send that to you, and people can find our information on the website. We're starting here in where we are located. We're in High Point, so we're starting here in the Triad, and then we're going to expand ourselves to the Triangle, the eastern part of the North Carolina, and to the Charlotte area. We're going to go to various areas. But yes, you can definitely get involved. We want to get communities involved because it's so important. Again, the power that these bodies have, we just don't recognize that the power and how much they have. For example, the one example is the Roger Eubanks. I think let me make sure I have that right. The Roger Eubanks in Orange County. It's a community, and the boards and commissions had the power to put a landfill next to this predominantly African American community. They, the county commission of Orange County followed the recommendations of the board, again, the non-elected board, and they followed the elected officials followed the recommendations of the non-elected board. And you find this over and over again. It's because, as you said, there's 10 or you say 13 in your county. And if you look through all of the duties and responsibilities, the elected officials, and I don't know how many elected county commissioners you have, but they don't have the time or the most of them are part-time. They're not
Hmm.
full-time in their
Hmm.
jobs. So they're part-time. So the boards and commissions, they have the time to go over they have a specific area that they handle zoning or development. And they have it and they'll look at it and they'll go through it and then they send the recommendations back to our part-time elected officials. And so
Hmm.
they have a that's why they have the quasi judicial and quasi legislative powers to
Hmm.
allow them to, because they're the judicial powers, they have like powers for evidence. You have to present evidence to them. They have powers to make sure that you have the hearings. They have hearings. They have evidential hearings and those type of things, just like a court. So they have the power in the statute. North Carolina statute gives them that power in order for them to make decisions about our communities. And so it becomes important for us to know where that power lies. Because I go around the state, I go anywhere, and we're working with some people up in Virginia right now, and we ask them, you go to a meeting, name three boards and commissions in your city. Name two, name one in your county. If you go to the state, North Carolina State, the governors in North Carolina State, you will look at there's approximately any day 300 vacancies on boards and commissions around the state, any day. Any day. So, but most of us, we're clueless as to what they are, what kind of duties and responsibilities, and all of this is public knowledge. All of this is statutory knowledge. It's in the Constitution. It's in the statutes and et cetera. All of this is there, but we haven't been educated. Now, I'll tell you who knows about these boards and commissions are the lobbyists, the health lobbyists, the development, the lobbyists who do real estate lobbyists and et cetera. They know, and when they contribute to a mayor, to a council person, and they come back to the council person and they say, well, when you make this appointment, look at Joe over here because he's a nice real estate person and he'll be real good. So they give their recommendation to the elected official, and the elected official who thinks he's beholden to them because of their contribution looks at their recommendation with
That's
favor.
exactly what I was going to mention.
and look at their recommendations. So sure, that's good. And if they're saying real estate, for example, if it's in development and the house person, that's not their expertise.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about development. They might be a lawyer or they might be a business person. So they say, well, this person, they justified in their decision to put this person on this board because he's a real estate person. And so this happens every day, all the time. And usually they have 2 to 3 year tenure, and some of them can be reelected. So it's something that we don't know about, but there's tens of thousands, from my estimation, about 80,000, 90,000 boards and commissions throughout the state, the members on the, not boards and commissions, but membership on boards and commissions. So we need to get a handle on this, and we need to get involved. Uh, you
Hmm.
you can download the application, start there.
That's fantastic. I think that that's information that we all need because sometimes we think that our vote doesn't count or it ends at the ballot box in November. But we also have a responsibility to follow up with our vote and make sure there's accountability for whom we voted for and what we would like for them to have done. And so the report card that you've developed and the boards and commissions that you're doing training on, those are things that we really need to zero in on. And we'll keep people posted, keep our listeners posted on what's going on with those two items. As a matter of fact, you were gracious enough to share your report card with us. And if you like, we can put it on our website, or
Please.
I will do so. We will make sure we put it on our
Please.
website. Um,
Hmm.
as we close, I want to ask you to talk about what concerns that you have given our current state of in our communities. That's part one. And part two is what gives you the most challenge and the greatest joy, the things that make you smile.
Hmm. Okay, first, our current challenge is that there's a democratic challenge, and by little d, we're being challenged as far as one, getting back to our vote. The Save America Act, for example, it is requiring um, persons of color to have, or people generally, they don't say persons of color, people to have multi identifications. You got to have a birth certificate. They want you to have some kind of special ID and et cetera. So we're being challenged.
Passport.
Yes, it's extremely important that
Yeah.
again, that we vote for people who will vote down and who will not approve of this particular piece of legislation. We're also being challenged economically. We know that when the this current administration came in, they got rid of DEI, and over 350,000 Black women lost their jobs. And
Immediately.
so immediately. And so we're
Hmm.
being challenged on that front. We have, again, it gets back to how critical our voting is and how critical and important it is for us to get out the vote. It has its purpose, and it takes us to where we need to go as far as our rights and our liberties.
Hmm.
And so we have to be on top of that. And when we have our workshops, we also in our workshops talk about voting and the power of voting and make sure that they don't suppress the vote. The other thing is back to what makes me happy and what makes me challenged. One, what makes me happy because I teach and I teach on the college level. And I'm so improved today. We were talking about, for example, one of the courses is African American history, and one of the courses is political science. And so today we were talking about the civil rights movement and how what were some of the earlier incidents, how uh, the legal the NAACP and the Legal Defense Fund, and the students were talking about how important that was to the Legal Defense Fund. So when I see students getting involved and learning our history and being excited about our history, that always makes me pleased. That gives me a smile and say, yes, we're leaving this in good hands. And you know, one of the things, they're so creative. Students are so
Yeah.
I have them
Mhm.
do infographics and they do PowerPoints and et cetera. And the art that they do and how they mix the art and the culture and the understanding, it just blows me away.
It's amazing. It really is
It's
amazing. It
amazing.
is. It
And it's
really is.
amazing how artistic they are and how creative they are. And so that always gets me excited. And then
Mhm.
I understand that we have to, you were just talking about Gen Z, and we have to realize how critical it is for us to get a handle and really look at and develop policies and plans for Gen Z. We have a lot of Gen Z in school, and the unemployment rate for Gen Z Black men is twice as it is for Black women. Right now, it's about 7%, and Gen Z Black women is about 4%. And so we have, and that's the official unemployment. And you know, we all know that the unemployment rate is when a person is actually looking for a job. It doesn't talk
Right.
about the people who've dropped out of not even looking for a job. Those, so
Mhm.
we have to
Mhm.
get a handle on how do we make sure. Now, Livingstone, we have more men, one of the few schools that have more men than we have women. And so,
Really?
so we got to get a handle on how do we encourage and get our young Gen Z people, Black men and women, back into the job market, back into the careers that they need to make their lives so successful. And that's being done when we make sure that we challenge the control that is happening in our country now from this administration and the fact that it's not allowing for the development of our young folks and our young minds.
That's fantastic. I'm so grateful for this conversation, and
And
for what you shared with us and the inspiration you provided, the educational tools, and the thoughtfulness with which you worked with community development and working in the communities and empowering communities. We just need that. And so I'm grateful for what you and your colleagues are doing and will continue to do. And we'll keep ourselves informed and we will back up every now and then and say, this is what Dr. Crockett is doing. And you
please,
can contact him. Now, how do we get in touch with you? If anybody's interested in following up with you right now, how do they reach you?
let me see. That I'll put in the can I go in the chat? Can I put in the chat? I'll put in the okay. Okay. So Sojourn Project 2, that's the .org, sojournproject2.org.
Okay.
And you see Sojourn Project 2 under my name, .org. All one, all one word. That's the website. Go there and it talks about the work that we're doing. And then you also can just give me a call. You can call me at the office, 704-216-6804, or call my cell, 404-547-9504. And I can put that, I'll put Sojourn Project 2 in well, people won't see the chat room. But
They
yeah,
won't see the
call me.
chat. So we'll make
No, they won't
sure
see
that
the chat.
it's available.
Yes, and then we'll send you the latest newsletter, and then that way you can put it on your website and your social media, and we'll get the word out. And yeah, we are accessible and very excited about working with our communities.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, my pleasure.
And I hope that we will continue this relationship.
Yes.
I look forward to that very much. And to
Yeah.
our audience, don't forget that you can go to our website, voicesofwethepeople.com, and give us feedback on today's program. You can also suggest future topics and guests. Since we will be taking a break, we suggest you go back to 810 Studios and look at our past podcasts. We have had some amazing guests who brought forth so much information that we can use. Sometimes you listen to people and say, what did they just say? No, we don't have that. We have people who are willing to share best practices, who have some interesting activities that they're engaged in. So go back and listen to our past podcasts, and then you can look forward to our future podcast, which begins with the adaptability discussion with Gen Zers. Most of all, you can support our work with donations and sponsorships. We really need that too. See our website for further information. Before we go, I have two things to mention. This is Women's History Month. So I want to share a quote from Rosa Parks. She said, I had no idea when she did what she did, sat in the bus. I had no idea that history was being made. I was just tired of giving up. That's what she said. So none of us can give up now. We have too much work to do. And we, like Rosa Parks, have to get to work. The other thing I want to point out is remember, in his speech, Give Us the Ballot, Dr. King said, so long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I
Mm.
cannot make up my own mind. It is
Yeah.
made for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen, observing the laws that I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edict of others. We must vote. This is Dr. Gloria Frederick, your host for Voices of We the People, saying thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time for our Voices podcast. And to our audience, don't forget you can go to our website, voicesofwethepeople.com, and give us feedback on today's program. You can also suggest future topics and guests. You can take a look at past podcasts by going to 810 Studios app. Most of all, you can support our work with your donations and sponsorships. See our website for further information. I want to extend a special thanks to our podcast manager and director, Tamika Robinson, and James Frederick, all things technical. And again, thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Crockett.
you.
Appreciate it
Thank you.
very much.